Start recording. Yeah.
Pathway would like to give you guys a warm up with what it is. Just like we worked on last year, we had very, very special guests that we brought over to speak to you guys so that they can share a little bit about their career, their involvement in STEAM or science careers, and perhaps expose you guys to a little bit more than what you already know. Our goal is to show you as much as we can so that way you guys can make conscious decisions on whatever future pathway or career you want to take. These are resources that we're trying to bring to you as much as possible so that you can benefit from them. Okay? Today we have two very, very special guests, two ladies who are going to join us and talk to you guys about their careers a little bit. Alright? And this is all thanks to as well to the people who helped us at SpaceHorizons. We give them a warm round of applause right here. They were the ones who helped us. If you guys participated last year on our rocket day, they were the ones who helped us make that possible. Okay? So first we're going to start off, and I won't tell you too much, I'll let her talk about herself. But with Dr. Zaferiou, sorry if I ruined that. Okay? And she's talking a little bit about herself, and then we're going to move on to our second guest, and I'll introduce her as well. But first, let's give her a round of applause and warm welcome, and then let's bring her to the guys.
So mechanical engineers get to design things that are very exciting and cool for all of us. They might include ways for us to generate power. So I have a picture up there of a wave power generator. An example in movies that you might be aware of is Iron Man. He was a mechanical engineer, or is a mechanical engineer in fiction, and they're involved in many different things that we encounter every day. So it might be the bus that you're riding on, there might be a mechanical engineer working on that, or maybe a Tesla that we see drive by. So I was really excited about this, and the summary of mechanical engineering is that mechanical engineers work to improve systems that use energy to do tasks that include forces and motion. So some example projects I worked on as an undergraduate student were creating my own wave power generator. So this is an example of the model here, and that would move when the waves move, and it would be in the water, and when that motion gets converted into energy. There was another class I took. I tried it because I knew that they were looking for engineers with the skill to know how to model things and model how fluid flows through things. So I took this class. I ended up not liking it, but this is an example of how the wings of planes are designed to see how much lift can occur depending on how the fluids flow by them. And my favorite project that I did was my senior project, because as a dancer, I decided to learn more about how the point shoes that ballet dancers use can be improved. So after my undergrad, I decided to fly all the way here to LA and to pursue my PhD or doctorate. So for this, most PhD students don't have to pay, and in fact they get paid, and you get some freedom to study what you love to do. So this seemed like a good thing to do. So I was here, and I just finished 5 years as a USC PhD student. So that means that I've been in school for like 21 grades. So why would I do this to myself? more your salary can be. And then on the other side, it shows unemployment rates. And as you get more educated, the likelihood of you being unemployed also goes down. So that's one good reason. Another good reason for mechanical engineering is that engineers get to create the future that we want. So if we wanted that really cool computer screen that we interact with, just waving our hands, we need some engineers to do that. And there's also some money involved, right? So out of college, engineers typically make about at least $55,000 a year as a starting salary. Maybe that's an approximate, but you're hireable right out of college. And with the PhD, I knew that I could create what I love, mix what I love to do with dance. So I would mix dancing with something that I also like, which is mechanical engineering. So let's hear a little bit about that. So dancers can be considered mechanical systems because they use energy to do things that require force and motion. So they can also do some really cool things that maybe most of us can't do. That was maybe an 8 or 7 rotation turn. And we need to be able to turn, to be able to walk around in everyday life. However, some of us, or some robots, struggle with balance while they turn. But again, dancers are great at balancing. So my PhD studied how dancers balance and interact with the ground and push on the ground in order to turn. So that's a balance ball, a Bosu ball, upside down, and she's balancing on her tippy toes on one leg for a really long time. So in order to study dancers, I learned more about biomechanics, which is all about how structure of biological systems, so people that can be animals, how structure relates to function. So if you go to the gym a lot, maybe your structure changes, your muscles can grow. Or maybe depending on your structure, you have a certain function. And it started as early as the late 1600s. So these pictures here show some of Borelli's drawings, and he decided to look into calculating how each joint of the human body works and maybe which muscles are used to do different things. And Muybridge was also important a little bit later on capturing the motion of biology. So he worked on the high-speed videos, and I'm sure maybe Sabrina will talk about that as well. So human movement, for us to understand it, we should understand forces and motion. So here's an example of a dancer in the lab at USC, and the little green arrows represent how she's pushing on the ground and how the ground pushes back at her while she's turning. And to study motion, we use different tools and different sensors. Some of it is called motion capture, as you see here, where we can use reflective markers all over the person's body and calculate things like position, velocity, and acceleration, which can then help athletes or dancers. So what provides the force for our bodies to move? The answer is muscles. So I have a really fun video for you, so just sit back and relax, and think about if you think this is all real, all fake, or half real, half fake.
Keep on
volunteer why they voted? Keep your hand up. Okay, maybe over there to the left near the doors. Go ahead. Why did you vote half real, half fake? You need to be louder, otherwise we'll hear from someone else. What do you think? You can do it. Okay, everyone quiet. Okay, well, I'll leave room for discussion at the end. How about that? Well, you can discuss it with your friends at the very end. But I'll leave you in suspense for now. So, what can we... Okay, we'll try again. Go ahead. Okay. Okay, so he brings up a good point. Did it look natural? Did it look natural for the abs to be moving in that way? Yes? I don't know. So guess what? The abs, or the six-pack, I'm going to need everyone listening. The six-pack is actually just one muscle called the rectus abdominis. So you can only activate your whole muscle at once. You can't activate like certain portions of it separately. So that part was unnatural because it was animated a little bit. But the real reason, if you have your fence beside half real, half fake, is that some of that is real and some of that could happen, especially at the beginning when he was isolating one muscle at a time. So we actually use that kind of technique with those stickers in the labs, in our lab to determine what muscles dancers were using or what muscles athletes were using. And after we know what kind of muscles they're using, we can do really cool simulations like this one that you're going to see. So for this, they captured which muscles are being used when different animals walk, and then they created a computer model using different geometries to see how those muscles would drive the biology's motion. So let's check that out. The motion that's natural to that person. So, in our lab, we've helped different athletes and dancers perform whatever they do better. One of the examples up here is from track and field, and that individual has amputations above his knee, and he has prosthetics. And he not only has to be able to walk through daily life, but since he's an athlete and he wants to run really fast, we try to help him do that. So we install these force plates, and those little green arrows you see give them feedback about how they're using their interaction with the ground to move. We also study how people who use wheelchairs can push on the wheelchair to effectively move throughout our environment while keeping their shoulders healthy, because our shoulders are not meant for us to be like walking on, right? We have our legs for that if we're lucky. Another few examples could be how can we make rehab more fun for people? So let's say an athlete gets injured and then they go to physical therapy and they have this physical therapy homework that they don't want to do. Can we create video games to make that more fun for them? That's a cool project. Can we make robots walk without any electricity? And can we make sure that everyone that's sitting at the computers for hours and hours and hours stays healthy? So can we make things more ergonomic? So what's next for me is tomorrow, I'm driving across country to Michigan, and I hope to take what I learned about how downstairs balance and turn and put it in a form that's interesting for them and create different devices for them to learn mechanics from. So thank you so much for your attention and your participation.
Let's give a round of applause for Dr. Antonia. If you have any questions, please stay towards the end. Because we have our next special guest. And next guest, her name is Sabrina Arnold. And believe it or not, at some point you've seen her work already. Right? Sabrina is an Emmy Award-winning visual effects person. Should explain exactly what that means. She's a producer who led the visual effects production on Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. You guys have probably seen that.
Oh yeah, I
so
have that.
She works with a lot of great visual effects, and that is yet another career in the STEAM pathway. So let's give a warm welcome to Miss Sabrina Arnold.
What I do. I'm a visual effects producer, and Antonia actually showed part of the family I work for. I work for Marvel and ABC Studios, producing their show Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I went to school here in California. I went to state school, San Francisco State. I got a degree in production. So I could have done radio as my major. I could have focused on broadcasting or journalism, but I chose television and film. And visual effects. One of the reasons I did that was James Cameron. So I was moving to this and said, I want to do that. That looks amazing. It's fun and to do that. So I went to school and learned the backbone of production. And then I came to LA about 10, 12 years ago, and I started like most people here in LA, trying to figure out how to get around in all the traffic, which was fun. And also doing internships at local companies. And I was fortunate enough to be on a company called Sept Studios, a visual effects house here in Los Angeles. I started on that, and I worked on a show called CSI. I don't know if you've heard about it. It was on for about 15 years. And that's where I got my Emmy from for doing that show. And to tell you a little bit more about that in a minute, how that works, I moved on from there and became a producer on Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. since the beginning. I worked directly with Marvel, and I worked with the Whedons, Jed Whedon and Marissa Whedon and Jeff Bell on the show. They're the executive producers. And I helped them create what you see on the screen that you know isn't real, but is so cool. Again, when you see some sort of animal or creature or superhero that flies or has a special power and has lightning bolts come out of his hands or whatever it is, Iron Man, when he flies, that's a visual effect. And I help them create that. I look at what they have in the script, and I break that down by scene. And then I break that down by shot. What I mean by shot is, you see this gentleman right here has a camera on me. Okay? I can go over here and I can talk to this camera, and then we cut the camera. And I can go over here, and maybe the camera follows me, and I talk to you. And that's a shot. So what I do is I look at each scene and I break it down, and I say there's a visual effect in that shot, and what is going to happen in that shot? What do I need to make that happen? And I use math and science, which in school I didn't really care for as much. But you know what? I use it on a daily basis. I use that as well as creative arts that I have a degree in to make sure I can get that scene. If I'm going to shoot somebody standing here, but I want them to look like they're in Hawaii, the best if I have to put it behind me, and I'm a blonde. Anybody know? What color?
Oh no, let's see green.
You know why? You ever see a blonde without a pool that has green in it? Their hair turns white, turns green. So it's the same thing that happens when you put a green screen behind me. You'll never get that green out of my hair. It'll look gray. It'll look terrible. So you put a blue screen behind a blonde. And that's why they have two different color screens, the blue and the green, because sometimes you'll have people that'll be wearing, most of the time you won't see someone still wear green, that color green that you've all seen. You'll see someone wear blue though. So if I have a blue screen behind someone and I'm in blue, then, sometimes you've seen it, whatever they put behind them will be on me as well. So just different things like that I have to take into account. I have to take into account the speed. I have to take into account the time of day. I also have to take into account the action that the actor or actresses in the scene is going to be performing and what I can put within that scene. All of that I have to do before we start shooting and know how to capture that, know how to capture the data that I need, because I need multiple things. I need to know how fast the camera is recording frames per second. I need to know what the temperature of the lighting is that is focused on them, what the Kelvin is. I need to know what the distance is from the subject to the camera. I need to have all that data. So when I go to an artist and I say, I want you to put a big green monster in the shot with me, he needs that information as reference, because he needs to know how high, how tall I am, how far the camera was away from me, how fast I was moving within that shot, and how fast the camera was recording. All things that relate to what I do. Show you a little bit about what I do. This is from the pilot episode of my show. Into that hangar. All I had there was, as you saw, was the ramp. So I had to make sure actors didn't walk through the bus that I was going to put in later. We had to measure it out and mark it so no one would walk in it and it would look like they were walking around the bus and they were working with the bus. I filmed people on green screen that I could put in later, operating on the bus, all sorts of different things, as well as telling the actor, Brent, who plays Ward on the show, where to walk so he wouldn't, because he's administrative, I help with budgeting, I make sure we get done on time, I make sure that we finish on budget, as well as what they call second him on set. So I'm on set with him, especially when he has to be in two places at once. We're actually filming recently for our current episode. I can't tell you much about the episode, but we had 2 units shooting here in Los Angeles. We were close, but he couldn't be in 2 places at once. So I shot with one of the units. We're blowing stuff up. It was kind of fun. But they had to have me there for technical reference. I would take data that would be used later on. I would take, like I talked about earlier, that camera data, distance from subject to lens, as well as what speed they're filming at, what their Kelvin rate is on the camera for lighting, all that sort of information that I have to jot down to give to the teams that create the visual effects that you saw here later on. So I do that as well. I wanted to talk about a little bit about education and why did I consider doing this. I wasn't really good at math and science in school, but I love the arts. I went to Performing Arts High School. I'm a native Californian, went to school in San Diego. And I decided I wanted to get into something that had computers and arts. And I saw that movie Abyss, and I decided that I wanted to check that out, see if I could get involved in that. So I went to school, got my background in education and production, so I knew what I was talking about when I walked on the set. And then I went after a visual effects company, and I got a job there. I started as an intern, worked for them for free. In the evenings, so I had a job during the day. And eventually I saw an opportunity, and they hired me, and I became a visual effects coordinator. And then eventually from there, I moved on to be a visual effects producer, and I worked on the show CSI and CSI Miami. Did that show for several seasons, and I'm honored to have an Emmy for doing my work on that. And we'll talk about that a little bit. I did a motion sequence. CSI was pretty famous for doing a frozen moment, and that's exactly what I did. I did a 2-minute, 17-second frozen moment in time. If you ever see, you can look on the internet, you can see it. It was season 10, it was our season opener. It was called Family Affair. It's on YouTube if you want to check it out. It's an homage to something called Carousel, done by Phillips. And what it is it takes a frozen moment in time, a crime, and they try to solve it by looking at the images. So what we did is we had an issue at the board, and you have a break-in, and so you see this frozen moment. And I did what is called motion control. Anybody know what that is? Motion control is when you have a camera that can repeat its action. So it's on a track, if you will. It's on a dolly. And what it does is I can have the camera go this way and turn around and come over to Steve here and focus on him. That's one pass. Then I do it again, and I tell the camera to do it again, but maybe I have Kevin sitting there this time, and I film the same exact thing. So it's filming elements. I can put people in there, I can put fire, I can put smoke, I can put anything I want in there, and it'll do the same camera move. And then I can take all of those elements, and I can composite them together with an artist. And then it'll seem like it all happened at once. So a lot of times when you see an actor that's behind an explosion in a building, and you see a lot of debris coming towards them, they're not always there because it's too dangerous for someone to be in front of that. That's usually a motion control shot. If there's movement in the camera, we add it all together in what they call post. Are any questions? Oh, yeah? Okay. Talk a little bit more about like day-to-day for me. I help break down the script. I go to all the meetings, talk to all the department heads to make sure that they understand, everybody understands what's going to happen on the show. And then we all get together and make sure we all understand what needs to happen when we start to shoot. Then we shoot the episode. Like today, I actually have a meeting. Last meeting, we start shooting the next episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. tomorrow. So everyone knows when they get there what they're supposed to do and how it affects each department. I work in the visual effects department, but there's a makeup department, there's a costume department, and all of us work together to make people see on the screen. We go to these meetings, and then we have to go to set when I'm needed, and I take down that information, the data that is needed for artists to composite it. And then you see us in the editorial process when they put it all together. I go through the show again, and I look for the visual effects, and I mark those, and then I send it out to my artists, and they create what you see on the screen. So that kind of brings you a circle of what I do as far as on a day-to-day basis. That's about it. Any questions so far? Are we opening up yet?
very much. We're not done yet. For anyone who has a question, go ahead and ask it. I know we may have to stand up and speak loudly, or if you want to come up to the microphone and you're brave enough to do so, you're welcome. We do have our representatives from SpaceHorizons who may have a little gift if you do ask a good question, right? For Sabrina or Antonia. And that way they can, if you do have a question about their career or about their education, we heard a little bit about how they started and what their projects are. But if you do have that specific question that you want to just ask, feel free to do so, okay? Also, you guys have received a questionnaire like this. We need you guys to fill that out. If you do fill it out, we will have flashlights for you. Right, we have flashlights for you guys. Hey, it's free, right? Hey. So, who has the first question for our guests? First question. Mr. Moreira, you have another question? All right.
Did he just go for the flashlight? No, he wants that question.
I said earlier that I didn't really like math and science. I have more of a creative brain, so math and science was always kind of hard for me, so I had to work extra hard to understand it, to get good grades in those classes. And so I didn't go towards those sort of degrees when I was in college, which is okay. But I still use math and science in what I do, like I explained earlier. And I think it's just my reserve and my fortitude to move forward and take it one step at a time.
ladies and gentlemen, I know that we're all anxious. Time is up. I know everyone just loves and enjoys eating their lunch here from school. So let's not all try to rush out yet. Listen up. If you do have your questionnaire and you want your flashlight, we're going to use this door. If you don't want your flashlight, don't care about it, you can go out the back door. Okay? If you want to stick around and ask questions, our guests will be here. Stick around, ask whatever questions you want. But thank you guys very much for coming.
It's still